we look at the Canadian debt to disposable income, and this where it does start to get into, it's like, okay, they can spend their wages plus what they can borrow, okay? And you see, 35 years ago, we're dealing with debt to disposable income of 92%, okay? So the average Canadian has debt that's 92% of their income 35 years ago. And now we're at 176%. And I zoom out like this because people like zoom in too much and they just think that, oh, that's just some sort of temporary means because something that's going to go away. It's like, and they might even look at this tail end and say, oh, this is getting dramatically better. It's like, not really. Like, this thing's not going away. We're not going back to the point where, people have less debt on average than their income. It might sound good, but the probability of that happening is very, very low, right? And so, and I put something in there. It's like the description I put in there is, most become slaves to the bank because of it. A few learn how to use it to increase wealth. Okay, so most people are they're the Dave Ramsey disciples. They're too scared to use it. They're not going to use it. It's like, oh, okay, but you have to understand that if you're in that class, it's like the value of the assets you want to buy, the desirable assets that will outperform inflation, they're going up faster than your income because of the debt used to buy them. And so if you don't use debt or learn how to use debt on it, it's like you have a harder assignment than you had 35 years ago. And that's not my feelings. That is the mathematical truth of the equation. So someone telling you that they didn't use debt 35 years ago and someone telling you that they're not going to use debt today, it's like one person has their hands tied behind their back in that fight.
That's right.
And that's the person today, right? And when I say like using debt, I get it's funny because we see the some of the hate from the Dave Ramsey disciples,
Sure.
and I call them disciples because like it's not a mathematical argument. It's like a religious argument that they're thrusting upon. I'm telling people, it's like, I'm not telling people to borrow off their credit card at 30% and go buy Bitcoin. It's like, that's not the argument that I'm doing here. It's like, if you have the right ratios and you know how to borrow money at, historic rates of 4 or 5% and invest it at 10%, and you can weather the storm when interest rates go up, without any issues, like, you should do that to increase your net worth. You should. And you should, if you don't know how to do that, you should learn how to do that.
Yeah, it's a completely different transaction or different mindset.
Yeah,
that we're talking about here. We're not talking about using stupid debt, stupid money to chase after less money and poor assets.
Yes,
right?
I'm not. I'm not advocating for you to have a car loan. In fact, we make fun of car loans all the time. It's one of the dumbest transactions where most people's car is worth more than their liquid investments, and they have no problem taking out an $80,000 loan on a car. You know what I mean? So we're trying to find there's a median in between the Dave Ramsey's disciples, the religion of not having any debt, and the people who are out of control with debt. There are people who know how to use debt strategically, and it's not beyond the grasp of the average Canadian. And I don't care if the masses, get that or agree with that, because in truth, 73% of the assets are owned by 20%. I don't care. I'm just trying to help the people who want to get in the 20%. And I think, it's not impossible to get into the 20%. I don't think, I know. Like, we've helped people. Like, we know for sure that people can get into the top 20% of asset holders on median income. They can. Mm-hmm. This can absolutely be done. It takes more discipline, takes more thought, but it can be done, okay? And it is, learning, right? And, often in our plans, like we're always telling people, hey, we have to eliminate high interest debt, okay? And we start to get into, what are the parallels of some of the things that we do versus what Dave Ramsey does. Like, okay, I want an emergency fund. Okay, great. I'll tell people is like, baby step. A baby step is like, let's start buying $100 of quality dividend paying stocks every month. And I need people to see how the system works, because if they see how the system works, it's like, with or without the $100 a month, you're broke. If you're not, meeting your bills, it's like, you're broke. Okay, so the $100 a month isn't going to make a difference. People need to see how the system works, because I have not had a single client who stuck with $100 a month of buying quality dividend paying stocks. And we showed them how to do that, and, without any ridiculous fees. I've not had a single client who's ever stuck to that and hasn't learned, dramatically learned how to get really motivated to eliminate their high interest debt, because then they start to see, it's like, wait, I get these quality dividend paying stocks and these guys pay me, every quarter I'm getting a dividend from someone. And, once I get enough stocks, I'm getting paid every month from someone. And they start to see, it's like, wait, if I could eliminate this credit card payment over here, I could put all my money into this, and that, those dividends would snowball that much quicker. It's like, yeah. It's too much cognitive dissonance for someone to stick with that $100 a month and watch those dividends snowball to not get super motivated with. They start to think, it's like, wait a minute, that crappy truck loan that I'm paying $800 a month, I could have 8x this return that I have in this $100 a month. Like, they're getting rid of that thing.
Oh yeah, and what's the interest on that car loan? Is it 6, 7, 8, 10%?
Yeah, a lot of the ones recently.
Like, you're losing. Yeah, you're losing.
A lot of the ones recently, right? And so, like, am I putting it into the emergency fund? Yeah, I'm going to put it into an emergency fund that's continually getting inflated away. I mean, I can draw on dividend paying stocks. Do they have some volatility? Yes, but volatility is not the same as risk. Those are two separate items. If I put cash in a bank account, there's 100% risk that it's going to get inflated away. 100% risk that it's going to get inflated away, right? Can I wake up tomorrow, my dividend paying stocks are down by 20%? 100% I can, right? But we're also saying these are, the type of stocks that we're recommending, these are dividend paying stocks. So these are, they have less beta. Okay. You look at great financial crisis and the types of stocks that we use, it's like the market's down 50%. These stocks are down 25%. And that's like the generational type event that happens. That's the financial crisis. That's the .com bubble. That's, COVID 2020, right? That's the maximum pullback for that. And you know what happens after that? They recover too. They recover because eventually people realize that these are, really solid investments. So it's like, okay, so we start that emergency fund, okay, but it's actually an investment. It's one that's not moving backwards and getting inflated away. We eliminate high interest debt, okay? We eliminate high interest debt because you got your credit line that's 10, 11%. It's like, we can't out invest that thing. Like, we just can't. You got your credit card, you got your credit line, you're dumping money into a vehicle that's not really increasing your it's not really increasing your net worth over time. It's like, that doesn't make sense, okay? But once we have that done, it's like, okay, there's another level to that program. It's like, okay, you got to grade 6. I'm going to get you to grade 12. Why, just getting rid of your debt is like, you're a 6th grader. It's like, I'm relatively confident that if you pass grade 12, I could get you all the way to there, right? I'm not going to treat people like 6th graders and, put one hand tied behind their back in this fight because the debt levels are increasing. And if you don't know how to do it, the desirable assets that you need not to get Zimbabwe dollared away, they're running away from you, and they're going to continue to run away from you. It's like that. That's just how it works. Okay. So this is my feelings. This is the exact stats. Okay. Now we get to the unemployment rates across Canada. It's different. Canada as a whole has 6.4%, but you see the massive variances between province to province. Okay, you have a low in the Yukon of 3%. In the provinces, you have BC and Saskatchewan 5.5, 5.4%. Newfoundland 9.6%.
Wow. Oh, Newfoundland.
9.6%. It's like, guys, maybe you should just go in a different direction. Like, maybe this isn't working. I don't know how many decades you got to experiment with this, but that's another discussion altogether. Okay, and some people are starting to get the unemployment rates. It's like people are people residing on First Nation reservations counted towards. It's like, yeah, all of those questions are legitimate. And that's why, go back to that other post that we put every month where I put the number of full-time jobs. That's going to give you a real good, less subjective indicator. Okay. And so you start to see Alberta, 7.1%, a little bit higher, right? That has been creeping up, and we're seeing migratory patterns of people leaving BC and Ontario, coming to Alberta, Saskatchewan, because they can't afford to live there.
Yeah, things are very expensive.
The housing affordability is it's really poor. So, you're going to get that influx of immigration. Okay. And that's, kind of just what's going to happen. Okay. But there's more going on here than this. Okay. You have to dig a little deeper, and, where I say the job market has flatlined, it's like, here's where I'm going to get into the really scary stuff of like where it actually flatlined. Because you look at that, it's like, okay, that's not so bad. It's 6.4%. We had an influx immigration. It was like, what are the more concerning things going on behind the scenes? Okay. You have Canada job growth in thousands. Okay. I start from December 31st, 2019. So December 31st, 2019. Here's where we have, everything. Okay. Okay. Everyone's at zero here. And we're looking at the three things: public sector, private sector, self-employed. Okay. So we're seeing that the private sector fell off a cliff in 2020 because they shut the economy down. Everyone's locked in their houses.
Yeah, shut down non-essential businesses.
Exactly. Businesses who have to generate a profit cannot keep employees on. Okay. Governments who rely on fake printed money can. Okay. And so I call this this is fake job growth. And this upsets some people. And that's good, because the people who are upset by this, trust me, they're never going to hire us anyways. And not only do I not want them as clients, I probably don't want any of their friends as clients if they can't see this. The last thing I do is want to be sitting across the table from one of these people who thinks that this is okay, that private businesses have to lay everyone off in a crisis and government workers are working from home in productive roles. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, sell me another one. I saw the working from home. You couldn't even get through to CRA.
Yeah, and I don't know where this was, but really these government workers are now wanting to sue the government because they want them to show up 5 days a week.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. How dare you?